the door to grace. Dear friend, you sit here with a simple yet profound question. How can I live with God's grace every day? I will not give you any grand promises or esoteric methods. I will only bring you back to something very simple, but if you grasp it, it will change your whole life. First, ask yourself this question. Who are you? Not the name, not the roles you play for the world, but the primal knowing, the wordless awareness which right now, as you breathe, you are holding. Grace is not a reward given to someone who is worthy or undeserving. Grace does not operate on the petty laws of cause and effect of the mind. Try, you are rewarded. Do good, you are blessed. Grace is the essence of existence, just as light is the essence of the sun. It is always present. The only question is, do you recognize that light? Or do you still turn your face to the darkness and call it by your name? Do you feel this? When you open your eyes in the morning, before everything rushes in names, worries, plans, there is a very thin, very clear moment. There is only one knowing. I am. No more, no less. Without a story about who you should be or have been. Just simply, the knowing is there. And that knowing, when it stays, is the door to grace. Why does grace seem to be lost? You lose grace not because it leaves you, but because you leave that very being. You cover it with 1,000 names. I am this. I am that. I must be this. I lack this. These labels turn the light into a possession, the gift into a burden. When the mind keeps labeling, you forget the original, the knowing before the name. Grace is not out there to be sought. Grace is in the breath, in the heartbeat, in the moment of knowing I am. All prayers, all rituals, all good deeds are just bridges, respectful. But if you cling to the bridge and forget the context, you will never cross it. Listen carefully. Grace is not for those who have or those who lack. God does not discriminate. The light does not ask what anyone has done to deserve it. If you feel abandoned, it is not because God has left. It is because you have turned away, looked at your fears, your desires, and called that look yourself. The first secret: stay with I am. To live with grace every day, you do not need an extra mysterious method. You just need to learn the art of returning. Return to the basic feeling. There is a knowing that I am alive. Simple but powerful practice. Stop, sit, breathe. Drop all labels, at least for a few breaths. Just know, I am. Stay with that knowing, not with thinking, but with radiant silence. Experiencing I am, the door to grace. Dear friend, you have heard me say, stay with I am. But hearing is different from seeing, and seeing is different from living. Words are just a spark. Experiencing is a flame. I do not need you to believe my words. I invite you to know directly. Here is a hand extended, but the path must be walked with your own feet. Look straight. The certainty is undeniable. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the pulse. Before every thought, before every story about yourself, there is a simple knowing. I am alive. That is the indisputable foundation. Everything else is the embryo of thought. Form, memory, intention, joy, fear, all come and go. But knowing that I am is always there. Do not jump to conclusions, just observe. When you wake up, before you plant the images of the new day in your mind, there is a moment of emptiness and radiance. That is where grace sprouts. If you can go back to that moment at any time, you will touch the source. The source is not created, cannot be bought, cannot be lost. Discernment. Witnessing is not identification. Your mind often says, I am, to label, to protect, to prove. But there is an important difference. Identification is when you say, I am fear, I am pain. Observation is when you see, there is fear, there is pain, but there is still a gap of knowing. When you observe, you are detached from the story. That knowing does not carry the trace of pain, of greed, of hate. It is just still and bright. From this position of observation, every event loses its oppressive color. Every suffering loses its power to reign. Observation is the window through which grace shines into life. I repeat, to be a witness to the mind is to be the presence of grace. The noise of the mind, recognize it and then not be carried away. The mind talks a lot. It is a noisy guest, tells the past, plots the future, judges and classifies. When you listen to the noise without knowing you are listening, you are carried away. Learn to listen without being carried away. That is the art. When you can listen to the noise and still stand in the stillness, you have the key. Practice. Every time a thought arises, do not marry it. Say to yourself, there is a thought. With this small gesture, you separate yourself from the thought and open up the empty space. The space where grace is present. Practice. Concrete steps to experience. I am. I give you some practical methods, not magic, but if done continuously, it will change your perception. Take a few minutes off every morning. No reading, no chanting, no planning. Just notice I am. Your breath, your heart, the feeling of being present. Keep your attention like a small candle. When emotions arise, stop. Ask briefly, who is aware of this arising? Just ask and listen. That question tears the curtain and leaves a transparent foundation. 3-second technique. When you are insecure, inhale for 1, exhale for 2, see, I am breathing for 3. Small action, but it brings you back to knowing. Observe an action when washing dishes, working, cooking. Let your mind know that you are washing, cutting, frying. If you do it with knowing, even the smallest task becomes a ritual, a doorway to grace. From direct experience to inner transcend. Grace is not a romantic experience reserved for Zen masters. It is the power to transform every daily interaction. How you listen to others, how you respond, how you take responsibility. When I am becomes the foundation, your life changes from the inside out. Common barriers and how to overcome them. Barrier: doubt. You doubt, thinking it is just an illusion. Response: see doubt as a phenomenon, not as the decider. Observe it and return to I am present. Barrier: tired of waiting for results. You want immediate proof. Response: be patient like the earth, not impatient but nurturing. Grace grows silently. Barrier: compare with others. Don't measure progress by the shadow of others. Progress is a return, not a competition. I am. The sanctuary has no walls. People run everywhere looking for God. Churches, mosques, holy books, rituals. All are precious as paths leading home. But the real home is not in any temple out there. Home is in this fundamental knowing. When you abide there, you have entered the eternal sanctuary. No door, no scripture, just a quiet knowing heart. In that sanctuary you see all equality. Sickness and health, rich and poor, praise and blame. All are variations of the same source. Grace and Samadhi, 1 is 2, 2 is 1. My friend, you ask, is the grace of God that you speak of also the state of Samadhi in meditation? I smile. The question opens a door, but be careful, because your mind will want to turn it into a theory. into knowledge to store away. I do not want you to know grace as a concept. I want you to become grace, to live in it like the breath you take. Grace is the Samadhi of being. Samadhi, in the deepest sense, is not a special state for sages who have left the world. It is not an ecstasy that you attain after years of arduous practice. Samadhi is abiding eternally in the very ground of being. I am. So is the grace of God. Grace is not a gift that God gives you when you do enough good things, or when you deserve it. Grace is the very nature of this existence. Vast, luminous, undifferentiated. You see? Two words, two traditions, but both refer to the same non-dual reality. When Indians talk about Samadhi, they refer to the ground beyond the mind. When Christians talk about grace, they refer to the love and presence of God in every breath. But actually, it is the same. The mind wants to be special, grace is ordinary. My friend, your mind often wants to make Samadhi a rare state, a pinnacle, an achievement for those who have gone beyond the mundane. But I tell you, Samadhi is not that far away. Samadhi is when you abide in I am without any additional ideas. Samadhi is the fundamental stillness, unshaken by joy, sorrow, gain or loss. Samadhi is grace expanding within you, like the sun shining impartially. When grace touches you, sometimes, when you go deep within, you feel a wave of peace that does not come from this world. It is not due to success, not due to someone loving you, nor due to a religious ritual. It comes like a fresh breath, gentle yet full, melting all burdens. That is when grace is touching you, and you are entering Samadhi without calling it by name. Grace, Samadhi in everyday life. Don't think that Samadhi is only in a meditation hall or on a high mountain. You can be in the middle of the market, still residing in Samadhi. You can be working, still living in grace. This happens when you are no longer identified with your roles. When you remember, I am not just this body. I am not just this mind. I am the witnessing ground, luminous, infinite. Then, whether you are cooking, working, loving, or suffering, you are in grace, which is Samadhi. Samadhi is not the end, but the beginning. Many people think Samadhi is the final destination. But I tell you, Samadhi is not the end, but the beginning. When you are truly in Samadhi, or what you call grace, you begin to see the world through the eyes of God. You no longer see enemies, only souls coming home. You no longer see tragedies, only lessons of love. You no longer see divisions, only one life manifesting in all its many forms. The state of stillness and aliveness. My friend, remember, Samadhi is not separation from life. Samadhi is not sitting still in a cave, cut off from humanity. True Samadhi is when you are still in your being but alive in action. So is grace. Grace does not separate you from the world, but dissolves you into the infinite flow of love, so that you live and act with a free heart, living in grace in the midst of hardship and turmoil. My friend, how do I maintain this stability when I step out into the real world, where there are jobs, responsibilities, illnesses, conflicts, and endless worries, the illusion of a perfect life? Many people think that to live in grace, they need a life without sickness, without want, without anyone hurting them. But that is an illusion. Life does not promise an earthly paradise. Bodies age, minds change, people come and go. But one thing is constant. Grace is not dependent on circumstances. Even in pain, even when you lose, even when everything seems to be falling apart, grace is complete, unwavering. The problem is not the circumstances, but your identification with the circumstances. You say, I am sick, but in fact, sickness is only of the body. You say, I am suffering, but suffering is only of the mind, but the pure being in you has never had any trace. The knowing is never hurt. My friend, I do not deny. Physical pain is real, mental sadness is real. But try to look deeply. The knowing that you are in pain has never been in pain. If your body is in pain, ask, who is the one who knows that I am in pain? If your mind is sad, ask, who is the one who is witnessing this sadness? You will see. There is a still, motionless, unperturbed ground that is observing everything. That ground is the abode of grace. When you return to this ground, you will no longer.
Grace, the light that does not choose. Many people pray, Lord, please give me grace. But listen carefully. God does not need to choose to give grace. Grace is like the sun, always shining no matter who you are. If you turn away, you see darkness. But the darkness is not because the sun is absent. It is because you have turned away. When you identify with your body and mind, you turn away from the light. When you return to I am, you turn toward the light and realize the light has never left you for a second. When you wake up to see this, you will no longer ask, how can I live in grace every day? Because you will realize you have never left grace, not even for a moment.